Good evening, everybody. My name is Rex Shege. I'm the host and founder of King's Tales, the number one podcast where we help you transform trauma into triumph. And on today, I got a very special guest here with me. I'm gonna allow him the honors of introducing himself, and then we'll get ready to the
Oh,
discussion.
oh my God. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Damani Eason. I'm a recent graduate of Delaware State University. Me and Rex go way back. I met him when Wesley still existed and Wesley was still a home. But yeah, I'm happy to be here, happy to talk some truths, talk about trauma, triumphs, and how to become a better person. So yeah.
Thanks, Damani, for the great intro. I kind of hate you for revealing my age, but all is well.
We're only 2 years apart.
Yeah, that's true. But people, the way you was talking, people would think I'm like in my 80s.
I mean, 20s and
All right,
80s,
let's not.
so.
All right.
Okay.
So that it is men's mental health month. Let's just dive off the
Okay.
deep end here. I remember you and I were talking a couple of weeks ago, and you opened up about something that not many black men are willing to do.
Mhm.
So I'll allow you the opportunity to talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so I'm a proud member of going to therapy. I love therapy. I would recommend therapy to anyone only because I know for me, not even the fact that I had a lot of trauma, the people around me had a lot of trauma that they never worked through, that it got bestowed down onto me and like how like I reacted to certain things and how I carried myself. So I wouldn't necessarily say
Mm,
but I feel like therapy isn't wrong, like isn't a bad thing for anyone. I feel like therapy is just like it's just like counseling, just like, just having someone be there for you to just know that you're not delusional, you're not crazy. How you feel matters, what you're going through matters, and like just having people there in your corner and necessarily care. Like it's their job to hear you talk. Like yes, it's your friend's job to hear you talk, but like they're licensed and they get paid the big bucks to hear you talk about relationships, heartbreak, family drama. So like I believe in therapy. I'm very much someone that's like I feel like therapy definitely helped me because I didn't necessarily feel like I was like crazy or anything. I didn't feel like I could handle myself a lot better and could talk about things a lot better without feeling so stressed out and without feeling like, oh my God, like why do I like this attachment style, like why do I need this from this person, or why do I need that from that person. And my therapist kind of really broke it down to me how like it's how we're brought up, it's the people that we're around, it's the environment that we're brought up in, it's our past relationships. So it's like kind of everything
mm,
plays a part into how we are as people. And like some people can either look for themselves and do self-reflection, or they can abuse drugs and stuff of that nature without dealing with, their childhood trauma, dealing with the trauma of relationships, dealing with the trauma of like past lovers, and not taking it. And I'm not always saying like taking it head
mm,
on, but like just
mm.
even like having that open conversation with someone else to be like, this situation really made me feel a certain way about something, and like you never really dug deep about a situation and why it made you feel a certain way instead of just like skating past it.
Very well said. Um, I definitely agree with the whole, if you don't confront it, it'll just linger. And
Yeah.
so, what you guys don't know about Damani's gonna confront things, um,
No, I'm not.
good, good, bad, or ugly.
I'm not a
And so
confrontational person. Don't believe him. I've gotten better. I've gotten better.
I think honestly that's probably part of the reason what brought us together because I saw so much of myself in you, and it really is amazing hearing how far you've come from
Oh,
where you were back in 2019 up until now.
wow.
But just going back to the whole stigma thing, especially being black men in
Mhm.
America, um, like what has what would you say was probably like one of the hardest things about reaching out and getting that help? Because you know it's one thing to say. Well, the hardest part,
Mhm.
honestly, is just admitting that you need the help. But like,
Yeah.
how did you navigate that and finding a therapist?
Good question. So it's actually funny. So like, I didn't start off in therapy. I started off in mental coaching.
Okay.
So do my job Starbucks at the time where I was working, they had a program where you could either sign up for a mental coach or sign up for a therapist. And I didn't necessarily know that there was a difference between a mental coach and a therapist. But a mental coach, their job isn't to really help you with your issues. Their job is to just keep you on track of your goals. And at
Mm,
the time, I thought that that's what I needed, and I thought that that's what would help me. but like it was a point where like I'm a very open and I'm a very raw and very open person. It was a point where like something had happened and I kind of wanted to like like off kind of wanted. I was having that type of moment, and my therapist really broke it down. My mental coach broke it down to me. It was like, you don't need a mental coach, you need a therapist. And she didn't say it in a
Mm,
mean way. She didn't say it in like, oh, like you need help. Like she just said that I wasn't skilled and I wasn't skilled in the manner of people that are suicidal, people that are going through that type of thing. So I would rather you go to someone that has the resources, that has the skills to help you become a better person. And to me, I felt like I was crazy. I felt like, oh my God, like why are you doing this to me? Like I thought that going to a mental coach was enough. And at the time being, it was enough for what I was dealing with. But like, when it became a more serious issue, I needed to see someone that was more equipped with like, dealing with LGBTQ plus issues and suicide and anxiety, depression, family trauma. I also needed a therapist that was also Black. 'Cause I feel like the difference between like every family has trauma, that's a given. This isn't
right.
anything new, but I feel like there's a sense of nuance when it comes to like Black trauma, and I feel like there's a certain nuance that like fellow Black people understand. Like it's a unspoken language that I feel like two Black people would understand a lot better than like someone that isn't necessarily white.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying that like, well, no, white people can't talk about therapy and white people can't address Black issues, but it's a certain sense of like comfort that you get when you're talking to another person of color about your issues, especially like when it's like, oh, like we all have the aunt that drinks, so we all have this and the third. So it's like it's a certain like sense of like home. But and I'll be very honest, like I didn't want like my mental coach was white. My mental coach was white, and but I did that purposely because I felt like I wouldn't like I felt like because they were white that I would listen more. Because
Wow.
if they were, I felt to me that like if my mental coach was Black, then I would treat her as like an auntie, and I would treat her as like, oh, like everyone has those aunties, like, hey auntie, the ones that you spill tea with, the ones that you kiki with, the ones that like you guys talk with, but like you take their advice with a grain of salt. You don't take their advice and none of it. You just take their advice and be like, oh, like yeah, sure, whatever, like you tell me not to do something, whatever. But like it took me wanting to be like, okay, like I do need a Black therapist because there's just certain things that like I don't want to have to explain why, I get uncomfortable around cops. Or like I don't want to have to explain why, as a gay Black man that like, I don't feel comfortable in non-Black or queer spaces. It's hard to explain that to someone that doesn't know their experiences and that doesn't know your upbringing. So like it has its own nuances, but like, to each their own. I'm not saying that my white mental coach didn't do a good job because obviously I'm here and I'm alive. But like, to each their own. But I definitely say when it comes to therapy, pick someone that you're gonna feel comfortable with being around and that you're gonna be like, okay, like I understand them and they understand me. And you don't have to teach them. Like, of course, you're gonna have to teach any therapist anything because obviously you're a new patient, whatever. But you don't have to teach them. You don't have to give them the whole handbook.
Mm.
But yeah.
Listen, you honestly, you just said a mouthful for real. Like I'm trying to figure out how I want to transition
Hmm.
to the next
I'm sorry.
question.
Yeah, because ever since I was small, I've always been a really big advocate for mental health. And I knew that as soon as I could afford it to go to therapy, I told myself that, like, you're gonna go to therapy. When you can afford it, you're gonna go. Because I knew that, like, there's the things that I wanted to work on to be a better person in general.
It's actually really awesome that you just brought that up because I was doing some research
Hmm.
all throughout the week on Men's Mental Health Month and gathering some statistics and facts,
Hmm.
particularly about Black men, but
Yeah,
also Black queer men as well.
of course.
So, with the whole concept of therapy, obviously
Hmm.
there's stigmas, but one thing that I learned is access accessibility
Yes,
to therapists and counselors is like really really slim for you
yes.
know black, black people in general,
But Black queer
but
people, yeah.
yes, and so you know when I was doing the research and stuff, I was like, yo, I came across a word. It said
Yeah.
it was intersectionality,
Hmm.
and I don't want to make sure like okay, we already know that Black people
Yeah.
are a minority marginalized group,
Of
but
course.
also you could be Black and queer, and
Yeah.
that is a minority within
Yes.
itself. And so, um, with navigating not only your trauma, but like
Hmm.
also finding out who you were,
Hmm.
becoming more secure in your identity and your sexuality. How were you able to navigated to get to this point that you're at now?
Um, Honestly, it took a lot of growth and it took a lot of like finding myself because I'm gonna be very, very honest. Growing up, I didn't see a lot of people like me. There weren't a lot of
Mm,
like queer black boys on television. There weren't a lot of like gay people in general. Like I literally and like yes, they were there, but they weren't the fully fleshed out individuals that like you see on modern television. Like you see on like shows like Pose and like sex education. Like I'm not like those are like fully developed gay black queer characters that have conflict, that have love interest. But a lot of the times you're used to seeing people like Sex in the City, Carrie's best friend, like he's a gay man and he's just a side character. Like he's nothing
mm,
more than just like her plot and like her best friend that's just there. And I feel like for the longest time I didn't see myself in other people. So
mm,
it became shows like Pose and it became like me doing my own research and me, reading books by like Jim Johnson, like All Boys Are in Blue, and just like doing the research to find like, okay, so like who am I am as not only a queer person, but who am I am as a black person. Because for the longest time, it took me so hard to navigate what that meant to me. Because I feel like sometimes I felt like, there's always a stigma of like, oh, gay people and black people don't get along, the Bible, the South, like that, all the hoopla that goes into that, and those stereotypes that are like, it might not be brought on from your own family,
mm-hmm.
but just like the general consensus of like, being gay and black is the same, being gay in general is the same, and like, deep rooted black people, the South, oh, get that. You don't want that around your children. We're a problem. Da 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 da. So like, having to deal with all of that and like having to come into my own and kind of define who I am as a man and who I am as a black queer man. It's just not easy, and it hasn't been
I
easy
was
because
about to
even
say.
every day. Even now, I'm 23, and like I've been through some stuff, and I've been through like heartbreak and triumphs, and I've been through it, but I still think that there's much more for me to learn each and every day, and I don't think that I will ever sit here and be like, wow, like I feel like I'm a fully fleshed out individual. I feel like there's always room for growth. There's always room for more knowledge. There's always room for like more spaces for people like me. Cause like even now, like I watch these shows and like, I can see somewhat of a sense of myself, but I
Mm,
still don't see myself completely. Yes, I'm happy that there's inclusion of like, black directors and black queer television and shows like Pose. Honestly, it's funny because a lot of my friends are like, oh my God, Damani, have you seen Pose? It's so good, this and the third. And I'm like, yeah, like I know Pose. I've seen it when it was on the Fox network, and I was watching it live, and I was doing the research, and I was watching these characters, and watching experiences, and like even like knowing my history. So like a lot of gay queer people don't know who Marsha P. Johnson is, and that's like one of the very first people that started the Stonewall riots. So like, you have to know your history to move forward. Just as much as I know, like Barack Obama, my friend for president, I need to know Marsha P. Johnson, the one who threw the first brick. Like it's like you have to know both histories. You can't just pick like, okay, I'm only gonna know black history, nothing about queer history. Like it doesn't work like that. At least not to me, because I feel like it's you're in those two worlds. You can't just sit there and say that, oh, I'm only a gay man. Um, okay, sure, whatever you say. But it's like, or be like, I'm only a black person, and it's like, um, okay, sure. But it's like, no, like you're a fully fleshed out individual, and like whether you want to identify with both sides of you or not, you have to. You have to just it head on. Because I feel like, when I walk into a room, people see my race, yes, but people also see how I walk. People see my mannerisms. People see how I talk. People see like the energy that I have in the room, the way that I dress, the way that I say certain things, like my expertise in fashion and music and skincare, whatever. So like those are things that people can see, and I can't hide who I am. I can't hide this personality traits to be like, okay, like I'm just gonna turn down my blackness for a day, or I'm just gonna turn down my queerness. Like that doesn't it doesn't work like that. Like this is kind of what you see is what you get, and I had to learn how to be comfortable within that, and I had to learn to like very much like take up space. And I kind of had to learn to be like, okay, like, Damani, if this is who you're gonna be, then like you gotta be this person to the best of your ability, and you kind of have to block off any negative hearsay that you hear around people, and like everyone isn't gonna like you, and that's fine. But like at the end of it all, like you have to like you, you
yeah.
have to love you, because when we all die, like it's not like we're all gonna get buried in the same grave. Like we each get our own individual grave. So it's like at the end of the day, when you're 6 feet under, did you live the life that you wanted to live, or did you live the life that other people
Mm,
wanted you to live? Or were you comfortable with being not yourself? Or were you comfortable with just being like, okay, I felt like, I was just, I was a decent human being. And like, I'm not sitting here saying that I want to make the world's biggest impact, but it's like, I know for me, something that kept me going is that, like, I know that I didn't have representation of myself growing up, and like I want to be able to give that to the other queer Black boys, so that our stories might not be identical, but they could be like, wow, like I see myself in Damani, or wow, like I see what he's gone through, and like I can go through the same thing type of scenario.
Very well said.
Thank you. I try my
And
best.
honestly, just based off of what you accomplished, I mean, so far in your 23 years of life, like you defied the odds, you beat the statistics. I mean, you dealt with what you dealt with, and you're still standing. So
Yeah.
that's, I mean, that's a pretty commendable thing within itself. And one thing that you said that stood out to me was the word impact. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the whole topic about our interaction today is impacting the world while
Yes.
discovering yourself. So, at what point did you realize that the work that you were doing, the advocating that you were doing, was making an impact in the lives of the people that you were coming across?
That's a really good question. I definitely would say that, like, when people would come and ask me for advice,
Mm,
and like when I mean for advice, like, and I'm talking about, like, oh, how to be a black person, but like when other queer individuals would ask me for advice, or when I'm recommending books to other queer people, or like I'm like, oh, did you watch this, or did you watch that show? Because I feel like sometimes when you're when you're Black, you don't really have a lot of resources. You don't really have a lot of people to go to. Be like, hey, like, as a queer Black person, you don't have that sense of family and that sense of comfort, because I feel like a lot of times we're so scared to be Black, and on top of that, we're so scared to be queer, and so scared to like fully flesh out like gay people. So like I feel like you don't have that sense of comfort growing up. I know for me, I didn't really feel that. I kind of felt like I didn't really experience a sense of comfort. I kind of felt like I was on my own. And yes, like I had a lot of female aunts that knew about like dating and stuff like that, but I feel like it's not the same as like having another queer person that you meet. And then like a lot of the queer people that you meet are way older than you, so I feel like it's the
mm,
advice is different, because I feel like you're young and like you want to do stuff your way or whatever. But I feel like having when my friends would start asking me like, oh, like I'm in this type of dating predicament, what should I do? And I'm just like, oh my God, you're asking me
you've
for
lived
advice. I'm
it,
like,
you've experienced
I've
it, so
lived
now you can provide the
it.
advice.
And not like say like, I didn't live 20 million lives, I'm like a cat. No, like I just have some experiences that are like not generic, but I feel like I have some experiences that I feel like, I'm very open about like my sex life, and like my friends know, and my like I'm very open. Like I don't really hide stuff from my friends. So like when they be like, oh, like I have this situation going on, and like, do you think that it's the best way to go on Grinder, and like and this dating app and that dating app and that dating app, or like what do I do? Because I like this guy, but he's not matching my energy, and this and the third. Like, when I'm able to give that advice, I really think that like, wow, I did something. But like, I just would say like I've gotten this advice from like reading, from like, doing the research and reading Jordan Johnson's All Boys Are in Blue, and just doing that stuff to where like I can be like, okay, like wow, like that was the first time I've actually read a book that was like, wow, I see myself. And they talk about like the relationship with their grandmother, or like, so it's kind of funny. As a queer person, you kind of have a second so like how every person goes through puberty, right?
Right.
But as a queer person, you go through a second puberty. And what I
Mm,
mean by that is I feel like the life you lived before you came out is not the same life that you live after you come out. So I feel like the life you live when you come out, before you come out, it's very secretive. It's very like, oh my God, I don't want anyone to know my secret. I don't want anyone to like treat me differently. And I'm not saying every queer person goes through this, but I know that I kind of went through a sense of this.
mm,
I don't want everyone to know my secret. I'm ashamed of this part of me, blah, blah, blah. But like once you come out and like once you're happy with who you are, it's kind of like you're rediscovering yourself, and you're rediscovering what makes
wow.
you happy, and like what makes you like like, oh my God, like this polyamory and pansexuality and transgender people, like you rediscover new things about yourself that you never knew. So I feel like it is a second puberty, I guess, is an easy way to describe it. That I kind of call it that because I've seen that, I've gone through it myself, and I've seen other friends go through it too. But like that's kind of like my general terms of like coming out as like a second puberty.
Wow. That's that's actually so crazy because like even though, I don't directly
Mm-hmm.
relate to, you know, uh being a part of the
Mm-hmm.
LGBTQ community, like the part that you said about the second awakening, like it really is crazy because the older that you get, like the more mature and aware you are of your surroundings and the experiences that you've had. And it comes with a level of wisdom that helps you navigate
100%.
certain situations. And so you approach things differently than when you would when you were 18 or 19 or 20, when you were really in your
Yeah.
young adult formative years. And now, just speaking, like, I'm 25 now, so like a lot of the stuff that that I used to engage in, or that I
Hmm.
thought I knew about,
Yeah.
I had to revisit certain scenarios and be like, okay, I don't really know as much as I did.
Uh-huh.
And one thing that's really helped me, and like you mentioned it earlier, like sometimes you have to lean on those people that are older than you, so they can get their experiences, recount how they handle certain situations, and they can pass down that wisdom to you. And it's up to you if you decide to use it or not. Like, at least they provided it
100%.
to you.
100%. Because even I know for me, like, I'm black and I'm 23. So, like, I don't know everything. Like, all of my experiences as a young black man aren't just set in stone and, like, okay, like, at 23, this is it. Like, you've experienced all that you're going to experience in your life. Absolutely not. That is cap and a half. Like,
Right.
I literally, like, your life is going to go on and you're going to have so many different experiences. So I feel like, I look to people like you. I look to people like, you or other male adults in my life that like kind of have experienced more and lived a little bit longer than me, for me to be like, okay, like, you experience being an quote unquote adult. Because I feel like, when you're in college, it's different. Because, like,
Oh yeah.
Monday to Wednesday, Thursday, you have class, Friday, you're partying for some people. For some people. So it's like, when you're an adult and it's like, okay, like, I have to go to a 9 to 5. I have to make money. I have to do taxes. I have to pay bills, an apartment, a car note, health insurance, 401k, babies, relationships. Because I feel like your relationships as an 19-year old, not saying that you can't be in a full-fledged relationship, but it's like you look at things differently as you get older. Because it's like, when you're younger, it's like, oh, like, I'm gonna be real, not PG-13. Like, who's my next booty call? Like, that's literally what it is. And I feel like when you're 18, I'm
Yeah.
not
I mean,
saying that
put
you
it
can't,
bluntly, for real.
I'm not saying that you can't be in a fully committed relationship at 18, 19, but it's like your mind is so young that like you just want like attention. Who's gonna give me attention? And I feel like, when you're 25, your frontal lobe develops. So that cognitive
For some
ability to,
people.
for some people, because people are past 25 and still have no common sense. But like past, like, when you're 25, that's when your frontal lobe fully develops, and that's when you have your cognitive abilities of like making good decision skills and like
Right.
thinking long term. And I feel like sometimes like the older you get, the more like you look at relationships. Because I feel like the 18-year old Damani would not look at a relationship the same way as a 23-year-old Damani. Like, I feel like I'm a little bit older now. I've weathered some storms. I've had some experiences, good or bad. Um, but I feel like the older Damani now wants something that's more long term. That's more like, I don't want to date to speak with you tomorrow type of thing. Like, I want to date to like, okay, what are we building? What does your future look like? That type of thing. Only because like I'm old. Like, not saying that you can't. And I say this to say that like you can live your life and live how you choose to be. Not saying that we all don't have urges to be like, wow, I want to go outside and go outside. Because some days I want to be like, wow, I want to be outside too. But also some days I'm like, wow, Damani, like, what do you like? And it's a duality as a human being. Like, you never
Yeah.
know, like, duality. Some people want to be outside, some people want to be homebody, some people want to be in between. And that's
Right.
okay, because we're human. And like, you can change your mind any day and be like, okay, it's a Tuesday night. What are my friends doing? Let's go outside. Like, and it's okay. Like, that's human.
And I think probably one of the best things about growing up and getting to experience those things is you get to navigate it and find out what's for you.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't get to experience it for yourself, like, you can listen to your parents, you can listen to your older siblings, you can listen to your friends. Be like, oh, don't do this, oh, don't go out there, don't do. But like, if you don't experience it for yourself, you're not gonna know the difference if you're a party person or if you're a homebody or if you're in between. And
100%.
so like, the more that you begin to do these things, the more self aware you become, and be like, okay, I know that I can only go out for like 2 3 hours and then go back in the house and
Yeah.
enjoy the rest of my evening.
Yeah.
Like, and so this is all really good. I mean, like, tackling the navigating identity, navigating your mental health, navigating trauma, and ultimately utilizing all of those experiences to get to where you are today. Like, that's major. That's
Yeah, it
major.
is. And I'm not a perfect human being. I'm far from it. Like, we all have flaws. And like, I even saw a video of myself from like September, October, going on a rant about a situation, drunk and like just not the kind person that I know that I could be, and I'm just like, oh my god. And I look back at it and I'll be like, wow, like I was just hung up on the situation.
Mm,
Not saying that the
mm,
situation can't affect you, but it's like, wow, like I was over here rambling when it's like you have all your life to live, you have all your experiences to gain. It's like, and you can look back at those memories and laugh and be like, ah, kiki, like type of thing. But it's like I think it's about the growth. Like I'm a very big person. I'm like, no matter how bad my life gets, no matter what's going on, I'm very much the type of person where like I put one foot in front of the other and keep going. Like I literally could be having the worst day. I literally could just be over it. Could just be like, I'm over everything. But to me, I literally be like, okay, Damani, today might suck. Tomorrow may not be any better. But you're gonna get up and put one foot in front of the other. You're gonna get up and keep going. Mama didn't raise no quitter. You wanna be this material boy lifestyle. You wanna be able to go to Turks and Caicos. You wanna be able to, have Gucci, Fendi, Prada, Louis, go on these expensive trips. Have these nice things. You can't like Kim Kardashian said, get your ass up and work. Like you gotta get to the bag. Like, and I'm not saying like you can't express how you feel, but it's like you gotta get to the bag, and we can talk about how we feel. And like
right.
something that I learned is that like because I know a lot of people do this, and I'm not judging anyone that does this, but it's like for me, when I'm upset or when I'm like emotionally charged or something, I say emotionally charged like when I'm upset or like I just something going on. I don't like drinking. I'm a someone that's like I hate drinking when I'm upset. I hate drinking when I'm stressed out because I feel like I'm not alleviating what's going on. Like I'm just masking it.
Mm,
And I'm a very much an open
mm,
person to where like I will literally talk about the same situation 40 times. And I will. And I will not stop. But at least I know to me, with me talking about it, I'm getting it off my chest. My friends know how I feel. Like where I'm expressing there's an exchange of information going on. There's an exchange of like, okay, like I feel this way because of X, Y, and Z. And I'm telling you about it because I want you to know that I feel this way about X, Y, and Z. I would rather do that than go and get tequila and drink because I love to drink. Drinking is fun. I enjoy drinking, but I'm not saying that like I'm I'm not saying that like I like to when I'm upset I don't like to go drinking. I'd rather sit and talk about my issues. I'd rather be like, guys,
mm.
let's go get food and get our drink. Because there's a difference between getting one drink and getting 10 drinks. There's a difference between drinking because you want to have fun and drinking because you're going through something.
Yeah.
And I witnessed that, like, especially like throughout college, like you meet people that go through different situations. Because there's nothing wrong to be like, okay, it's a Tuesday night, let's drink. There's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with that. But it's like, are we drinking because we want to have fun? But are we drinking because we're mentally depressed? Are we
Mm.
drinking because we got cheated on? Or are we drinking because we failed a test? Come on, guys. Like, let's make it make sense. And as an adult, you can sit here and make those kind of decisions. And can I sit here and be like, wow, I was drinking when I was upset? Absolutely. And I was drinking because I was failing classes? Absolutely. But like as an adult, I learned through therapy, it's not good to do that. Because it's like you're not dealing with how you feel, you're just masking it. And like,
Mm.
I don't want to mask how I feel. I want to be very open and very honest with how I feel.
Right. And that's the key. Yeah, you have to be honest with yourself because if you're not, then no change will occur. So I feel like you kind of went into it a little bit, but when you do find yourself in a rut or like you find yourself having like a really
Hmm.
bad day, what are some methods or practices that you implement to like help yourself get out of that?
I'm someone that's like, I'm a little emotional. I'm a crybaby. If it's real bad, I cry it
You
out.
and me both,
I
bro.
don't care. I will cry it out. Like when I quit, so short story time, whatever. I applied for the job. I went to the job the first day. It was not giving. I quit. On the bus ride home, I was crying. I wouldn't even lie.
Oh,
I was crying because I knew that like I was so happy about the situation that didn't work out that I had to cry. Like I just had to cry because it's like it was a failed opportunity, and it's okay. Like, but I cry it out, or like I listen to music. I literally
mm,
will listen to sad music to cry, or like I'll listen to like I find empowerment in like female pop singers because like I feel like there's nothing more empowering than a woman that can get on stage and be judged by 50,000 people and still give a killer performance. So like I will listen to pop music and feel better, empowerment music to feel better. But that's just what helps me, or like I'll go on a walk, or like I'll play video games, or like I'll even like go to the gym, and like because now you're working on your fitness, and now the melatonin that you just got from the gym just made that sadness go away. So and that's how my body gonna look good. So come on now, like come
come on
on.
here.
Those are kind of my ways of doing it, or like I just like quality time with my friends, one thing about me is that like when I'm sad, like when I'm going to do something, I love my friends and I love like being around them. And like I would be like, hey, like do you want to get ice cream? Like do you just want to go out? And not even going out is like going to go get drinks, like going out and just like being in each other's company and being around each other. Because I feel like there's definitely community and there's definitely like a sense of love and care in friend groups. I think that that's a very honest thing to say, and I definitely feel like I have, and I love my friend group so dearly. Like I love them, and I love all of you guys individually. Like I love because I feel like every person that I met in my life has been there for a reason, and I feel like each person in my life wants me to do better. It
Mm.
wants me to do more. Wants me to be a better person. I don't think that there's anyone in my life that doesn't want the best for me, and I feel the same way about them. So I'm very much like I lean on my friends for my support system. And I won't even lie, and I think that like it's an equal exchange. It's not like one power of exchange over here, one power of exchange over there. It's an equal exchange of like power and like care and love. Because I feel like when I'm going to do something, my friends are there for me, and when they're going to do something, I'm there for them as the best way that I can. So, yeah.
Very, very well said,
I'm a
Mr. Damani.
softie and I'm a little emotional crybaby. I can't help it.
Oh man. Well, I feel like throughout this whole interview, you dropped a lot of good gems and scattered them throughout. But if you could offer one piece of advice for someone that looks like you, that has been in the same rooms, well, someone that wants to walk in the same rooms as you, that wants to exude the confidence and the security that you exuded throughout this whole interview, what's one piece of advice that you would give them?
If I could give one piece of advice for someone that looks like me and that like wants to, I don't say like be like me because I'm not. I always say this. I'm the role model. Like I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect. Like I make mistakes as does everyone else in life, but it's like I'm honest about like what I've done, and I'm
Mm,
honest about all of my experiences, the best ability that I can be. I definitely would say like just be your. This sounds so cheesy, and I hate this saying, but it's like just be yourself. Like I
yep.
think that you get farther in life being yourself and being like this like person than like putting on a front or acting like, oh my god, like I'm too holier than or like I'm too cool for school and like I'm this that and the third and blah 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 blah. But I feel like to me something that I've learned is that I just like to be myself. Like and I
Hmm.
learned that like there could be 20 gay queer people in the room, but like there's no one is Damani. No one is the next person. And I think for the longest time I felt like I couldn't tell the story. Like I felt like I couldn't tell my story. I was very much like, pick somebody else to do it. Like very much like pick somebody else, not me. I don't want to have this job because I felt like I wasn't a representation of what being black and queer in America is. And I still to this day learn that like, being black and queer isn't one maker model. Like it's like a car. Like you can detail it and design it how you want, but it's like there is no set stone of like, okay, like you need to be this person, have this upbringing, have this amount of money, go to this, go to that. Like there is no set in stone on how being black and queer in America can be. And it's like the only thing that you can be is be yourself. And that'll get you a lot farther in
Mm,
life being yourself and trying to be what other people are doing and like, how they're acting or what they're wearing and like, and I will say that we all give into social media, we all give into like what's going on around us. Obviously, like we're human. None of us are perfect. None of us are like, I don't look at social media as a role model and I don't do this in the third. Cap. You're capping to yourself and to everyone around you. And I feel like everyone can look at me and be like, wow, like I wish I had their lifestyle, or like, oh, I wish I was them, or like I wish I had X amount of money. But I feel like, every something that I've learned is that like, if it's meant for me, it's gonna happen. It wouldn't be
yes,
my
sir.
life if I didn't experience these things. I wouldn't be the money that I am today if I did not experience the stuff that I experienced. Even going back to something that happened 6 months ago, the day before yesterday, the day before that, 2 weeks ago, 10 years ago, my first birthday. If I didn't experience any of that, I wouldn't be the person I am today. And I always said that I wouldn't be this funny. Like I wouldn't be this funny. Like I really wouldn't be this person, and I'm proud of who this person is, and it's taken me a long time to find the strength to sit here and say that I'm proud of the money that I've become, but I know that I'm gonna do greater things. I know that I'm gonna keep going, and I'm gonna be like a good brother, a good son, a good father, a good anything. I'm gonna put my mind to it as long as I believe in it. And like at the end of the day, like you have to believe in yourself, and it's hard to do sometimes, but you have to like. If there's no one fighting in your corner, then you gotta advocate for you and you gotta fight for you. And 9 times out of 10, there will be people fighting in your corner. You just don't see them. So yeah,
That's it, man.
I
You got me.
love being here.
You got me all charged charged up, man. Jeez.
Stop. Literally, I think that kudos to people like you. Like, when I mean by kudos to people like you, I feel like, it's very hard to find allyship within the queer community, especially with other Black individuals that aren't LGBTQ plus. So thank you for being of service, and thank you for actually wanting to have the hard conversations and wanting to sit here and gain knowledge and, like, wanting to know more about the queer community, wanting to know more about, like, the Black community, and just even having me on my podcast. Like, I applaud you, because I feel like, I had this conversation with somebody else recently, and I was like, I feel like a lot of men have podcasts and talk about nothing. It's like about nothing. Talk about literally nothing. Nothing that makes sense. Nothing, like, something dumb. It'll be like, oh, like, I would never date a girl that wears skirts, because why are you showing legs to other men but me? Shut up. You make no sense. Like, you're stupid. And, like, so, like, thank you for wanting to have, like, and I'm not saying that other people aren't doing, like, educated podcasts, but, like, this is the closest one in proximity that I actually listen to and want to be engaged with. So, like, thank you for wanting to do the service of wanting to be a Black man and, like, wanting to have a different type of podcast. I feel like a lot of guys, I said what I needed to say.
You did.
And that's all.
We're not going to dive too
We're
much
not going to dive too much
tonight.
because men of podcast can be a whole podcast episode. But yeah, thank you for wanting to do service. Like, thank you. And, like, thank you, like, just from, like, our friendship and, like, what I've seen you do and, like, how I've seen you, like, be a person of service. Thank you for that. Because, like, there aren't a lot of, like, Black men in America that are willing to have an openly gay friend and gay, like, brother, little brother, whatever, and want to be there for them. I feel like a lot of times Black men are kind of like, oh, like, I don't, and it's 2023, and they're still like, oh, like, I don't want to be run that fag, I don't want to be run this type of person. But it's like, bro, like, chalk it up. Like, this is so 90s. This is so old and trivia. Like, nobody even thinks about that. Like, I'm not sitting around like, oh, like, I'm going to sleep with every person I see. I want to sleep with my best friend. No, we're not all thinking that. Like, relax. Sometimes
Right.
we just want genuine connection, genuine friendship, genuine brotherhood, because it's hard enough to be a Black man, hard to be a queer person. So imagine what it's like to be a queer Black person and not feel a sense of community. So we build that community with our friends to have our friends be there for us.
And that's so important. And for real, like, that's part of, like, the reason why I wanted to have this space is because trauma doesn't discriminate.
No.
Like, you can be Asian, you can be Black, you can be queer, you can be disabled. Like, it doesn't discriminate. It's what you do with those circumstances and those experiences. And you can either transform it into something really amazing, or you can allow it to consume you. And so that's, again, I commend you for, utilizing those negative experiences and still turning out to be such a positive person. So continue to really just be dynamic, be inspirational, and be authentically you. I mean, you said it the best. Like, there's only one you in this world, and you only get one chance at this life. So why not just live it fully?
100%.
So that's all for tonight. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to another episode of King's Tales. Damani, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be here.
Always a pleasure to be here. I would come any other time. I'm always willing to help, always open to help and talk about my experiences as a queer Black individual in a society where, like, we're kind of being shunned. We're being shunned down upon, and there being laws being built against us. So being able to come on your platform and talk about some issues, pertaining to us, I'm willing to do and willing to be here. So thank you for even having me. And, like, everyone, please check out the King's Tale official podcast. My friend Rex is doing amazing things. I'm proud of him. Like, please stay tuned for this episode. Like, I thank you for being here. Like, I'm honored. This has been a true privilege.
Absolutely. And what y'all don't know is we got some stuff cooking up for the next 6 months. So
100%.
Tune in. If you are following us already, we're almost to 100 followers, and the subscribers are starting to go up on the YouTube channel. So, hey, man, all I'm going to say is this. By the end of the year, if you ain't locking with us by then, I want to hear nothing next year. It's gonna be a problem. That's all I'm gonna say. It's gonna be a problem.
It's gonna be a problem, but check out the King's Tale official podcast. Check out my Instagram at Keeping with Damani. I'm not doing big things yet, but it's in the works. Y'all gotta
listen. Y'all gotta follow him, bro, because sometimes when he be posting, he be acting like he not no fashion model, but he know what he be doing.
I'm not a fashion model. I'm not one of them. There are other people that do that job very well, and I'm not one of them. I just know how to take some decent pictures. But, if you want to stay in tune with what I'm doing, follow me at Keeping It with Damani. I'm trying to start doing TikTok, trying to start doing a little bit more content, trying to just live life a little bit better and just be entertaining, I guess you can say. But yeah, this is me signing off. See you guys next time. Bye.
See y'all. Have a good night. This is Rex signing off.